But frankly, the secretary's handling of her own personal email and the maintenance of her personal email inbox is something that I'm not going to comment on and not particularly interested in.
Alongside Miranda Kahn, J.D. Hayworth back with you on America's Forum. Presidential Press Secretary Josh Earnest saying he's not interested in Hillary Clinton's personal emails. And of course, we heard the same thing from Trey Gowdy earlier. Right. It's not the personal emails, it's just how did Mrs. Clinton decide they were, quote, personal? So that's how we get into it. Let's bring in one of my old pals. Tim Constantine is a columnist for the Washington Times and radio host of the Capitol Hill Show. He's Skyping in from Florida, and remaining with us, Pete Hoekstra, my old congressional colleague from Newsmax Washington. So, Tim, how is Hillary's answer playing on Main Street?
Well, I got to tell you, the feedback we got yesterday was not well. And I realize I play to a conservative audience, but the piece by piece by piece, if you dissect what she talked about, and I think it was the defiance, it was the attitude that I'm going to do what I want to do, and that should be enough. I've gone above and beyond. I heard her say above and beyond 3 times. I heard her say unprecedented 4 times. So she had her own talking points down, but I don't think they sold.
Pete, I want to ask you, so obviously Republicans care about this, and as we just heard Tim say, people who pander to that particular audience who don't care for Hillary are just going to eat this up. But for people who are maybe undecided, do you think it will really affect their opinion of her?
Oh, I think, the people that you're really looking at for how this is going to impact Hillary are the people in the middle. And I think kind of this callous approach, I think they're going to be turned off by it. And I think, it's going to be the emails and just the adding and adding and adding on of issues that Hillary's going to have to confront. You've got Trey Gowdy looking at Benghazi, at what happened in the 72, 96 hours. But you're also going to start having people look at the bigger picture of the failed overall policy in Libya. So it's going to be this death by 1,000 cuts. I think Hillary's in real trouble.
And mindful of that, Pete, you can usually gauge the trouble by the ad hominem attacks and name-calling that comes from the other side. To wit, former Vermont governor and former chairman of the Democrat National Committee, Howard Dean, really unloaded on conservatives and what he had to say about it. Take a listen.
It's very clear this is just more Benghazi, more Republican right-wing nutjob stuff, and going after all these imaginary scandals. I think it's ridiculous, and it would really be great to move on to some serious issues here.
Right-wing Republican nutjobs. Now, Tim, you may have a conservative audience, but let's see, the Secretary of State, the former Secretary of State, came out and said, we deleted over 30,000 emails, and trust me. So how can this not be suspicious?
This is extremely serious. We look at the way Benghazi has unfolded. Now, I could play back my show from September 12th of 2012, and it has laid out almost exactly that way. I'll give you a funny analogy, though. This is why Hillary is in trouble, is Hillary Clinton and Mike Tyson. What are the odds of those two being in the same sentence? But Hillary Clinton is suddenly vulnerable. Once Mike Tyson lost, the air of inevitability that he was going to win every fight was lifted, was gone, and he was no longer the great fighter anymore. I think the air of inevitability of Hillary Clinton is lifting here, and the Martin O'Malleys of the world see an honest-to-God opportunity to win.
And with about 30 seconds left, since we compared politics to pugilism, let me bring in the third P, and that's Pete Hoekstra. So, will it be time for Martin O'Malley or Elizabeth Warren or another Democrat? What do you think, Pete? 30 seconds.
I think that Democrats who are dissatisfied with the inevitability of Hillary Clinton, I think they sense blood in the water. They are going to start looking for an alternative, and I think an alternative is going to have a real shot in Democratic parties. And if Hillary does get the nomination, she will limp to the finish line.
A limp to the finish line, maybe that means a second-place finish, which would mean losing. We'll see about that. Long way between now and November of 2016. To Pete Hoekstra and Tim Constantine, our thanks. And to you, stay with us. We're waiting for a news conference from Ferguson, Missouri. Hour 2 of America's Forum is coming right up. Back now on America's Forum, and you see the coverage from our parent website, Newsmax.com. Secret Service investigating agents' crash near the White House. More problems for the protective agency charged with protecting the life of the President of the United States.
And they even have a new leader now, and it's still going on.
And will that leader be long for the job? Because I think his number two or someone else in management was involved in this car crash. Let's bring back our Washington panel, though one of them is Skyping in from Florida. I refer to our friend Tim Constantine, columnist for the Washington Times and radio host of the Capitol Hill Show, and as is his wont and our desire, my former congressional colleague, Pete Hoekstra of Michigan, who checks in from Newsmax Washington. Pete, first to you. The continued problems of the Secret Service, this latest situation, will it prompt more changes within the agency?
Well, I hope so. I think it also demonstrates, as you mentioned, that this has been now a long series of events over the last couple of years that have just embarrassed the Secret Service. Number one, as an American and as a former congressman, you're just disappointed to see a once proud agency have all of these kinds of issues. It also indicates it is a deep-rooted problem. It is a cultural problem, and you're going to need strong leadership at the top to restore the pride, the respect, and the professionalism to this organization that we all want it to have. But this is going to take a while. This is a systemic problem that needs to be dealt with.
But what do you do, Tim? We have a new leader now. Clancy is a new leader. This happened under his watch.
We can question the leadership of a lot of agencies under the president, but I think it's interesting. Yesterday, you talked a lot about Oklahoma and the university out there and instantly suspending some students because they sang an offensive song. It's offensive, but it's freedom of speech. Instantly, they are kicked out of the school. Here, we have people that are charged with protecting the President of the United States. It appears drinking was involved, but we're going to investigate. We're going to look into that closely. And I'm thinking, which one of these is more serious? Which one of these should be getting that instant firing, that instant removal? Seems to me some drunk fraternity boys should get less attention than some drunk Secret Service agents.
Pete, Tim does have a point in terms of responsibility and just what is at stake here. But I'm just curious from your perspective, Pete Hoekstra, the president, how can he even countenance this when quite literally it is his life that could be targeted, it is his protective detail, and certainly just in a hierarchy of needs for his family and himself to allow this to continue with the Secret Service? I don't understand.
I don't either. And this is a systemic problem, not only in this agency, but government-wide. There's a problem with holding government employees accountable. Tim is absolutely right. The people who participated in this, at a minimum should be put on leave immediately, if not fired immediately. But we had a report the other day that Social Security identified, 6.2 million Americans who are collecting benefits, who are 112 years or older. Where's the accountability and the requirement for professionalism there? You've got the problems with the IRS, Lois Lerner. Government does not hold people accountable and drive for excellence and professionalism. You need to change the whole culture of government if it's even possible.
And along with changing the entire culture of government, Pete, I remember during our days in Congress, people would come to see me and they talk about government employees, whether they were part of a protective agency or another, but essentially now with government unions, when a grievance is filed, it takes 6 years, the length of a Senate term, if every appeal is tried and the entire process goes on. So obviously that cannot continue, and certainly in a sensitive position like protecting the life of the president, changes need to be made as quickly as possible to bring that protection. To Tim Constantine in Florida, first time having you on, pal. We're glad to have you. Pete Hoekstra, we don't call you a repeat offender. We're just very happy to have you as well. And hour 2 of America's Forum will follow this timeout.